suit and tie and get your hair cut way up high. Get yourself a lawyer, son. You're gonna need a real good one.
It is that time of the day on a Tuesday when David Whiting comes back into the studio. Really, he lives here after having been here Friday morning as well for You Don't Know Me, and a very well-received You Don't Know Me conversation as well. David, great to see you again. That was terrific. Thank you.
No, look, it was my pleasure. It was interesting when I got to reception desk downstairs, though.
Yeah.
They're all, you have different people on a Friday that you do have on the Tuesday, and it's who are you? And anyway, we managed to get through that. And,
I thought maybe the desk might have gone, is it Tuesday again? What are you doing here?
No. The regular lady wasn't there. It was somebody different, and it was, anyway, it was good.
No,
I enjoyed it.
The answers and what we learned about you was lovely and illuminating. So
I got some emails as well. One says,
you get?
You're brave. Yeah. Anyway, with which I agreed.
Yes,
Yep.
you are. You're very
And my
brave.
wife told me that we hadn't really spent nearly enough time on it. Anyway, but I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it too. And I hope you'll enjoy today as well. David Whiting can help you out with some legal problems. 1300 222 774. We did have some homework from last week.
We did. We had Mark, who was a art installer based in Melbourne, who was contracted to install some panels in a very large, in an open commercial space in Sydney. And the question was, where does he bring it? If he wants to take it further, where does he bring the proceeding?
Because they're refusing to pay his bill, which is $55,000, because they're saying that a painting warped as a result of his hanging, and he's saying it was open, it wasn't sealed off the building, they didn't have air conditioning, it was during the big Sydney rain event.
All of which I accept, and the issue will be, well, I think it was something like 12 panels, and there was one which wasn't hanging. Sorry, they were all hung properly, but there was a warp in the canvas in one of them. And
a ripple.
And I first looked at the rules in the New South Wales Civil and Administrative Tribunal. Ours is much better than theirs.
Than Sydney?
Yeah, the Sydney one allows claims by consumers, but not claims against consumers. We have a jurisdiction which allows a trader to do a small debt recovery in VCAT as well as consumer complaints. Sorry, can't be brought in New South Wales. Mm-hmm. In the middle of 2020, the Court of Appeal here in Victoria decided something that all lawyers knew, was that VCAT wasn't a court, and that affects the jurisdiction to bring proceedings against residents of other states.
Right.
So can't bring the proceeding in Victoria, but as of November last year, the Magistrates Court of Victoria can take jurisdiction in those proceedings. So my recommendation would be a Magistrates Court proceeding, but maybe that's where you start the discussion. But I would be bringing the proceeding here in Victoria, because most of the evidence is here in Victoria. All of the installers will be here. The only thing they won't be able to do is inspect the painting.
Well, they can take photographs, can't they?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Is it worthwhile ever having a conversation with other people in the corporation?
Oh, if you know, absolutely. If you know people further up the food chain. But I would frame it in terms of, are you satisfied that somebody follow due process, rather than I'm not happy with the decision that's been made.
Right, so review it all.
Yes, so asking someone to put fresh eyes on it, which is not the same as asking them to agree with you.
No, 1300 222 774 is the number if you would like some help today. Brenton in Brunswick, you're first up. Go ahead.
Hello. Yes, I had a car accident. A woman ran into the rear driver's side of me.
Yes.
And she refuses to report it to her insurance company.
Yes, not required to.
Yes, I understand she's not required to.
Mm-hmm.
So what can I... And my insurance company has rejected my third-party claim to have her car fixed, which effectively means that they don't consider me to be at fault.
Yes.
I've had 3 quotes done... made to my car, including one from a panel beater that she suggested I go to, and she's rejected them.
And has she said why she's rejected them, or she's just not doing anything with it?
Well, she said that little damage was done to her car, she was able to buff it out, and she doesn't want to pay her excess.
Oh, I understand that. Look, Brian, you've got no choice. You can... It's a magistrate's court matter. What's the cost of your quote?
Well, 3 quotes.
The lowest one is?
The lowest one is $1,500 plus they can't determine the damage that was done to my rear axle until they hoist it up and dismantle it.
Then what you would, if all other things being equal, Brendan, you've given her the quotes, you get the vehicle, you start the process, and you're then in a position to provide evidence as to your extra damage. So there any damage done to your axle.
Start the process. What process?
Getting it fixed.
Okay.
So you can you can commence a magistrate's court proceeding after you've got the vehicle fixed, and that's normally what insurance companies do. They get the vehicle fixed and they say, now you owe us X. So you would be entitled to, you've already given her quotes, she refuses to do anything about it, and your problem is that you don't know if the quote you've got will be the end of it. Get the car fixed. Make sure that when they take the panels off to assess the rear axle, they get another assessor to come in and quote the repair, and then commence your own magistrate's court summons for recovery of the money.
So get all the work done and then...
Yes.
And then begin the action.
But in between the panel work and the undertaking the work, just if you're going to find that there's more work that needs being done, then you want to get another assessor to come and price that work for you.
So good luck with that. We hope that helps, Brendan. Alex in Chelsea, go right ahead.
Yeah, are you able to get a copy of the body-worn camera footage from the police, in relation to your own matter, sort of the way you would the brief or whatever? And if so, does it come direct from the police?
There have been some cases that resulted, I think, in a law change. There was a case in the county court decided last year that said that no one had access to police cameras other than police, which struck me as being remarkably unfair. They've got evidence that can establish guilt or innocence, and the only ones that they're going to produce are the ones which support the view if they take it to court. So that law's been changed. You can now get access if the body camera information is necessary for the conduct of the proceeding.
Is there a proceeding, Alex?
Yeah, there is, and I think that there isn't on my side, you know what I mean? Because I'm disputing what the record of what they're saying was said.
Okay, so would Alex get it herself?
She writes to the informant and she asks for a copy of the body cam video.
So you write to the police officer?
The person whose name appears on the summons is the informant.
Yes.
And you say to that person, I want a copy of the body cam.
Can they say no?
Then you would go to the magistrate's court and you'd subpoena it.
But Alex would need a lawyer to help her do that, correct?
You do, and the other thing, Alex, is I'll get some details and deal with it next week.
Okay.
As to what the process is.
All right, Alex, so if you tune in next week, we'll have a few more details on that as well. Leanne in Blackburn, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. I'm the executor for my late uncle's deceased estate, which has now been pretty much finalised. The house is sold, etc. And my brother, who is interstate, is a co-beneficiary. I was wondering, what is the process for me to claim the executor fee if there's no lawyers involved in the estate?
Leanne, are you a beneficiary?
Yes.
So half the estate's gone to you?
Correct.
Right. You can have commission in one of three circumstances: where the beneficiaries say you can, where the will says you can, and where the court says you can. Now, clearly, your uncle decided that giving you half the money was enough. Your brother is not prepared to contribute. You can make an application to the court, but the court would weigh how much of the work you were doing for your benefit. So you may not end up with a very large amount of money. And then there would need to be an analysis of what you did as an executor that justified the fee. How many days' work, how many hours' work, time spent.
Are fees usually paid to the executor?
If a trustee company will charge commission, a professional executor will usually charge commission.
So a commercial operation will, yeah.
But may also charge on a time basis.
Uh-huh.
But I've always felt it's a little bit unreasonable to ask for commission in circumstances where, I'm going to be really rude, Leanne, how much was the estate worth? Not that it makes...
A fair amount of money, probably about 1.7, of which I've done everything. I've organised the funeral, I've sold the house.
Yep.
But the estate was 1.7 million and you got roughly half.
Well, once it's distributed.
Of course.
Well, you understand, but half of what was left over.
Yes.
Yep.
Wow,
Yes.
that's a fair bit.
No, so Leanne, you have to work out how much of the time and effort you put in that your brother ought to pay for. And it may well be something, but don't see it as a large amount of money.
No, I thought it's like a percent, like it's 1 or 2%.
No, well, yes, but if you're making a claim for commission, well, the legislation says that the commission can't be more than 5%. It doesn't mean you get 5%. The courts work it on the basis, well, we think the commission ought to be X, which equates to Y%. But there's a lot of work you need to do to put in to persuade the court you're entitled.
Liam, we'll have to let you go, but are you prepared to do that work, or do you think you might just leave it as is?
It might be more time that I've already spent hundreds of hours.
So why don't you simply ask him for an amount of money?
Yes, I can do that.
Yeah, the answer would be, let's say it's taken me 3 months, equivalent of 3 months full time, half for me, half for you. That equates to this. Give me this amount of money.
Yeah.
And of course, if you're charging an executor's fee, you've got to include it on your tax.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Just to be difficult, Leanne.
Leanne, it's with you now to decide how to proceed, but it sounds like a decent windfall for the two of them from the estate in any case, David.
Yes.
Yep. Okay, Mick in Gordon, is that right? Hello?
That's right, Virginia.
Go ahead, Mick, you're on the air.
Hi, David. Look, I got an infringement notice for speeding, taking my dog to the vet after it just eaten a rat bait on a Saturday afternoon to a small country town. And I disputed the infringement notice, hoping that I'd get some sort of medical emergency, but I didn't. I got notice that it's not going to be. I'm not going to get an official warning notice.
Yes.
Not going to get an official notice. No, it's a serious safety matter.
Yes.
And so I can take it to the magistrate's court. So I'm just wondering, is it worth it? Could it end up costing me more than it's worth to do that?
Mick, what speed was alleged against you, and what was the speed limit where you were apprehended?
60k zone, doing 70 kilometres an hour.
Okay. That's not hideously high above the limit. You'll need evidence from the vet of the crisis.
Yeah, I got that. I submitted all that.
And you might get a slightly reduced fine, but I can't see you'll be let off.
Okay.
Right.
There's no chance if I went to court, I would be paying costs for, I'd end up paying more.
You'll end up paying court costs if you're unsuccessful, but they won't be high. You won't be paying the costs of the prosecutor, you'll just be paying court costs.
All right, Mick, I hope that's helpful. Thanks so much for calling in. Simon in Reservoir, go ahead.
Sorry, is that me, Simon?
Indeed.
Simon, that is you. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Hello.
Unless, of course, you're not really from Reservoir.
That's right.
That's happened before.
Or Simon.
Yeah.
Hello. Hi, look, I live on a subdivided block, unit at the front, unit at the back. I've got a driveway down one side, leads to a turning circle, 2 garages, one for each unit at the back. The driveway and turning circle are listed as common property on the title of subdivision. I've got a neighbour who thinks that it's all her private property and parks her car and her visitors' cars there, making it very difficult for me to use the space as intended. What can I do?
Spend a great deal of money with no guarantee of success, Simon. I'm dealing with exactly the same issue for someone who has... you at the front, for the person who lives at the front, but in the circumstances you described. And there are some issues in relation to the way the owners' corporation rules work about the use of common property. And the question will, to a large extent, depend upon whether you are obstructed or not. So if you are obstructed, you can take the matter to VCAT using the owners' corporation list. So you might have a look. There are quite a few cases on the Austlii, AUSTLII.edu.au website. and you can see some cases and discussions on the facts that you're talking about there. You can go to VCAT and you can get an order that says they not do what you're complaining about.
But how successful do you think Simon's going to be, David?
It's really, without knowing the owner's corporation, the area involved and the restrictions on Simon's access, I really wouldn't like to say.
Okay. All right. So I'm afraid this one's, we leave this slightly hanging in the air, David.
Well, I think Simon needs to get some advice as to, it needs to be able to explain the extent of the inconvenience.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if 3 nights out of 7 he can't get into his garage, those to me are issues.
Yep.
And he might, I don't know, we could start a tit-for-tat problem here. We just park to inconvenience them as well.
Maybe we could.
Let's not do that.
We're not encouraging that.
No.
Grace in Narre Warren, go ahead. Good morning.
Good morning, David and Virginia. I'm ringing for my son, whose house is located at the bowl of a court. He has a large driveway crossover for 2 properties because he shares it with his neighbour. The garbage truck is using this crossover to complete its 3 or 4 point turn to exit the court, and due to this the crossover is deteriorating quite badly with large, deep semicircles of cracks. They've taken photographs of the truck actually doing the manoeuvre, but are wondering who is liable for the repair to the crossovers, because the council has subcontracted out the work of collecting the garbage. Is anyone liable for the repairs?
It would be the contractor who's doing the garbage, not the driver. The employees have a right of indemnity from their employers, so it won't be the driver, but it will be the company that's doing the contract garbage work.
Yes.
And whose names will be on the side. Beg your pardon?
Photographs help in that situation?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But what you need to do is work out what the solution is, and it may well be that the crossing needs to be dug up and built thicker, because it's clear from what you're saying that they need to be able to turn the truck around.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. Well, would they perhaps be prepared to do that so that they can use that crossover?
I don't know. You'd need to ask them that, but that to me would be the issue. And the other thing is you need to talk to council about it, because technically while you've paid for the crossover, it's not on your property.
It's council.
Your son's property doesn't start till the fence line.
Right. So the council should actually have the issue with the truck drivers damaging it?
Yes.
And if council doesn't have the issue, can you encourage them to have an issue?
Well, I think you need to encourage them. The answer would be they're not taking... I mean, if I was to do some building work on my property, then the council would come and inspect and make sure that I didn't damage the crossover and do any of those things.
Yep.
I'm saying the council should apply the same standard to everybody.
Thanks for calling, Grace. Peter in Kilmore, go ahead.
Yeah, g'day. Got a bit of a problem with a mortgage. It's a long story, and I'll just cut to the chase. I'm part owner, not on title, not on the loan. My son had to...
But you're on the mortgage.
No, I'm not on the... I pay half the mortgage.
No, but you're on the mortgage.
No.
So the property's not in your name, is that right?
Correct. It's in my son's name.
Okay.
And we were approved, but then they wanted the contract of sale of the existing house, which we gave them. Then they turned around and said, look, no, we can't do it. This is the only way we can do it, which meant that they wanted it as an investment property.
Yes.
So my son gave them the paperwork because we were in the catch-22. We had nowhere to live if we didn't do it.
Yep.
Now that we've turned around, because the broker said, look, give it 6 months to 12 months and then just tell them that you've moved back in.
Yes.
So that's what we've done. Now the problem is that they're not willing to change the interest rate because it's an investment property, but they're willing to change the title that it is a owner-occupier. What do we do?
Sorry, they're happy to refer to it as an owner-occupier rate loan, but not change the interest rate.
Correct.
Can I ask, Peter, do you have a fixed interest period on the loan?
No, we don't.
So why would you not ask your broker about refinancing? Change the lender. There's an extraordinary number of lenders who are doing refinances without giving you a bill. So
because they're saying my son can't service the loan by himself, and I can't go on it because I don't earn enough.
But if we add your income to his income, does it? Your problem you're describing to me is you don't meet the lending requirements. Well, what we're at the moment is you've made an application for a loan, and what someone has done is come along and said, well, Peter's son's got this much income, and if we rent the property, it'll generate this much income, so the loan can now be afforded. And you're saying, well, we're now moving back into the property. Well, if we move back into the property and all of a sudden we no longer have the rental income from the property and it no longer meets the lending requirements. So that's your problem. Your redesignation of the loan doesn't meet the bank's lending requirements. They won't do anything while you're not in default.
I understand that, but
so how do we resolve this, David?
Broker said that my son got approved on his wage.
Yes.
And then they did a backflip once they got the contract to sale of the house.
Yes.
Saying, look, this is the only way we can do it now.
Well, at which stage you had the ability, Peter, to reject the loan? So you've got to, if you look at your original loan offer from the bank, it has 27 million outs for the bank in it. So unless you get someone to break down and analyse what the issues are, I think you're stuck. I think you're stuck because it's quite possible that your son will not now meet the lending requirements for an owner-occupied property.
But they'll maintain the loan at this different interest rate. What's the difference between the two rates that you might possibly get here, Peter?
Well, the normal rate is 7 point something.
Yep.
And we're paying 5.4 or something.
So you're currently paying less than the nominal rate anyway, are you?
No, we're paying 5.4 or 5.6% now.
Yes, but you said the normal rate was 7%.
They want to move you to that, do they?
So, no, the normal rate's 3.7 something, isn't it?
Oh, okay. I thought you said 7. I do think it becomes an exercise in maths to sit down and say, can I change? What might I change to? And go back to your broker.
Yeah, that's a difficult position to be in, though, isn't it, when you're in the middle of the loan or about to be in the middle of the loan agreement? Well,
they're only a year in. They're only 6 or 8 months in. So I would be going back and...
But might you look as unappealing to a new bank or a new lender as they appear to be at the moment to this one?
Well, the question is, do I meet your lending requirements or don't I?
Yeah.
And I think that's the assessment that Peter needs to go through because that might then be the discussion with your existing bank.
Can I get a tiny bit of legal advice before you go?
Yes.
I've just got an unknown bank.
This is call number 8. Yes, okay.
I've got an unknown bank here texting me saying that they've detected unusual activity on my account.
Yes.
I don't have an account with this bank. What would you advise that I do, David Whiting?
I would be declining more emails more texts from that number.
Hitting delete?
I only get 2 or 3 a week.
I get 2 or 3 a day.
Oh, okay. You're better known than I am.
What do you do about that? You know the phone call with the ominous gap? You go, unknown number, hello.
I'm from the tax office, or I'm from Amazon, or
the
I'm
ominous gap,
Yep.
and then you hear the click, and then you hear the hello from long way away, and you go, no. I usually hang up before I get to the end of the ominous gap.
Obviously, your phone is more people have your phone number than have mine.
My phone.
Okay.
If anyone's trying to call me to tell me I won Tatslotto, they're never going to get to me because I'm hanging up. David, great to see you. Thank you. David Whiting back with you next Tuesday, and he'll help you out again.